Hey everyone. So I am absolutely thrilled to get to share this week's episode with you. Luci Lampe is someone who I have admired from afar for a while. I have followed her social media page and just been so deeply inspired by the way that I see her articulating how she is walking the walk. I said to her in our conversation, and something I felt so strongly as I watch her is just that she moves with so much spiritual integrity in the way that she is sharing her process and, in this space of constant evolution and inviting so many of us, certainly as women, but I would say as humans, to be in the space of reclaiming our pleasure and our willingness to return to our hearts again and again. And I just think she is such, not only the most beautiful human, but also someone who is just really a way shower in how we do some of the work tangibly. Like she's in it in the space of relationship and parenting and all of the things while continuing to embody some of the things that I feel like I certainly talk a lot about with clients, but are some of my growing edges in my own life. So I feel like she's not only such an inspiration, but certainly a teacher for me as well. But a little bit about Luci. Luci is a mom of four, soon to be five. She has a baby on the way. She's an author, a trauma-informed sex and relationship coach, an award-winning singer and songwriter. She has the most beautiful voice, commercial actress and print model, and a four-time author. So yeah, I feel like she is gifted in so many different facets, but I kept thinking as I was sitting down with her how much I wanted to do some more work and dive deep into the work that she so skillfully leads others through doing in their own space of embodiment and reclamation. So I know you're going to be so inspired by this conversation. I certainly was. And this is Luci. Luci, I am just so honored and excited and grateful that you were willing to take some time and sit down with me. I know that you have so much happening in the works and just all kinds of, things on the docket. So thanks for taking some time to come and sit down with me.
Oh my God, it is an honor. And I love having, there's just there's a good energy here. There's a lot of resonance.
Yeah, such a soul sister energy that I felt in your presence immediately. And as we were talking about on your podcast, just as we've sort of been interacting on social media the last couple of years, like immediately I felt that. And I've been doing this thing where I've been pulling a card because I feel like I want to bring ritual and the rituals that have been really supportive of me into the podcast. And so I pulled a card right before I sat down to talk to you. And I was thinking, ooh, how appropriate for Luci is this card? But it's Merlin.
Oh, magic! Cosmic knowledge.
And cosmic knowledge. I was like, she is straight magic. So that makes a lot of sense. But I'm going to read it real quick and then we'll see what our conversation brings up that might be in alignment with this. So, cosmic knowledge. Magic is coming. Luci is coming. Your answer is written in the stars. Merlin represents the magician, wizard, sage, and wise one archetype and features in both Arthurian legend and medieval Welsh poetry. His specialty is divine alchemy, the transformation of heavy physical matter energies into higher vibrational energies. Merlin uses the spiritual tools of purple energy of the Merlin uses the spiritual tools of a purple energy cloak and a rainbow chakra wand to bring forward universal knowledge. He's a guardian of Avalon, the multidimensional realm connected mainly with sacred sites in Glastonbury, England. Drop everything you're wrestling with. Leave the mind struggles. Stop trying to figure it out. Don't rely solely on 3D logic. You need to look beyond the physical and open your energy to the mystical forces that govern our universe. This is where your answer for healing lies, beyond the veil, in the constellations and transits of the planets, deep inside the mysteries of the cosmos. You are now harnessing ancient wisdom from the Avalon mystery schools of Merlin. He taught metaphysical subjects such as alchemy, sacred geometry, astrology, divining, and healing energy. There was a vast cosmic library containing esoteric texts by divine scholars. Let Merlin help you remember your magical powers. Whatever you're seeking right now, your inner magician knows how to find it. Meditate and ask your third eye chakra to reveal what you need to know. You can visualize Merlin's rainbow light streaming from your chakras to help heal yourself, a relationship or karmic issue. You're a wise soul with knowledge from other worlds. Trust the power conferred by your purple cloak and crystal wand, given to you many moons ago by the supreme sorcerer, Merlin. I just love that so much.
That's good.
As I sit down with you, Luci, because I've been so struck as I've witnessed you moving through the world that there's such an energetic force of you being connected to the cosmos as you speak, and just with your understanding of how I think I experience you as speaking to how we're evolving. And, I know that you do work around being a trauma-informed sex and relationship coach as your work in the world, but also I just experience you as just like this really spiritual being, really plugged into the cosmos. And so I guess I would love for you to tell a little bit about how you came into this space of embodying who you are embodying as Luci today.
Oh my, that is a loaded question. Like a big baked potato with all the toppings. Oh, that sounds good right now.
Love that.
I'm too pregnant to be making this food analogies.
That just gave me so much life.
Oh my God. So, as always, the journey has been a windy road one, to say the least. And I really do. Also, thank you for saying that and for reflecting that back to me, because to me, everything really is sacred. Everything is spiritual. Everything about this human experience is sacred and spiritual. And I appreciate that you see that and you embody that as well, because we know that relationship with a person is not just a relationship, a transaction, an exchange of needs being met. It is something so much more profound than that and divinely orchestrated. So I came to that remembrance, really, through a lot of, through some key awakenings in my life. At the time, I wouldn't have called them spiritual awakenings. It just felt like shit. It was just really painful. I was like, at the end of my rope, I can't do this anymore. And the first big defining moment of that got me to go deeper into my heart was, about a decade ago. Yeah. Wow. We're in 2025. That was when my husband at the time, he was going through about a 2.5-year period of disability and depression. And there's a difference between someone going through a, recalibration of identity versus just kind of giving up on life. And I was not used to being in partnership with that man, because he was always clear about what he wanted, always, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm passionate about. And it's just like the life just whoop. And so I had been so dependent on his juice and zest for life. And that was my big invitation to go deeper into, okay, well, how am I finding my peace and my well-being and my joy, my happiness through this? And through that time, I also developed an autoimmune disorder that just took over everything, like draining resources, draining my energy, while I was also the working parent, taking care of the family. Already had 4 kids at the time. My youngest was just a baby. And it was too much. It was too much. And I felt like I was drowning. But that connection to that magic, and I love that that's the card that came up, because that is what I feel like I've been tapped into since as far back as I can remember. Before religion was ever in the picture, there was this magic. And it was that when the church couldn't give me the answers besides just give it to God, which I didn't have how do I do that in the middle of that life experience? But I felt this call of that magic. And there was something outside of the box of what I had been conditioned to believe was spiritual. and was healing and acceptable. And I started to explore that. And I found a community where it was the first time that I got to feel big feelings and felt safe and accepted, witnessed and loved through that. And that's kind of what set off this whole thing. I tapped into my rage, and then I tapped into my grief. And then it was just a whole thing from there about my eros and my sexual healing and my spiritual wilderness.
Oh, my spiritual wilderness. Mm-hmm. I love that. So much of what you just said feels so deeply resonant throughout my entire body as you're speaking. And I want to go back just a bit to, because you were fairly young when you got married.
Yes, I was 20.
20 is extremely young. I mean, I know now you're like, I was a baby.
I know. I look at the picture, I'm like, what? Who let that happen? No wonder everyone was like, are you sure?
I mean, oh my God, I'm sure it feels like another lifetime. And, you know, there's a way that I loved what you were saying, because I think this is important around like how we can start to draw some of the, what I like to think of as our underdeveloped functions from our partner, right? Like I'm sourcing life force, I'm sourcing a sense of all of the eros from our dynamic. And then if for whatever reason, I mean, I think we would probably say it is divinely orchestrated that my ability to do that is taken away, I sort of have to step into that space for myself. And I guess I'm wondering if you can say some more about what that gave you in terms of an understanding about your dynamic, that maybe if someone's listening and they're like, oh, that really resonates in terms of what I've been doing in my partnership. Like, what did you understand about this 20-year-old Luci that, you know, had certain ways of being in relationship that needed to evolve, that through that experience you came to understand about yourself?
Yeah, that is, thank you for that. That's nailed it. Okay. So, even through those 17 years that I was married to this one man, we had, I would say, maybe 6 or 7 different marriages to each other within that. And that season was one. It was me just figuring out, really just coming to the rude awakening that my happiness was so dependent on someone else and his moods and how he was feeling. And if he was okay, then I was okay. And if not, then I wasn't. And walking around on eggshells and not knowing nothing about, you know, things like childhood wounds and traumas and attachment and anything like that, let alone the spiritual components of it. I wouldn't change a thing, though. Here's the thing. I do want to emphasize this because we were together for the exact perfect time that started at the perfect time and ended at the perfect time. So there's that too. For anyone who did get married young and then you're like, well, I'm a different person now. Great. How is life inviting you to own more of yourself, even with this person? And where are those expectations and assumptions about yourself that you're holding on to, your very identity? So that's what really was up for question for me, was my identity. Who am I? And I was just at a point where I was out of other options. I didn't see any other way through. And I remember starting to change the way that I would respond to him. Not engaging in certain conversations or fights, or disengaging and going to, you know, do a rage ritual in my space, for example, or go journal or go, you know, go deep into whatever practice I felt I needed. And that started to shift the dynamic in the relationship. Within about a year, he started to do that kind of work as well. And that brought him out of that depression and gave him he found his own renewed sense of purpose and identity and everything. But I will say it's usually messy. There's a recalibration period where you have a dynamic established with the person. And when you mess with that, it sets off this cascade of things. So that's part of it. And if someone is in the middle of that, then okay, congratulations. You're owning this new identity. Yeah. Yes. And they might respond with skepticism, They might respond with, oh, you think you're better than me now? You know, a whole bunch of different ways. And that's when you get to really stand in your sovereignty, not as I have something to prove, but I get to operate from this love now. And I'm not going to go back to the way that I responded when I was just in my fear. And another piece to this is that it takes time for the body to catch up. It took time for my nervous system to really rest in the knowing that, oh, we can express our desires and fears and etc. and be safe, even if the other person doesn't like it or agree, even if they get offended. That bit can take some time. And so to really emphasize that this is why you've got to keep returning back to this source of love, whatever that is that you connect with, whatever name, form, shape that takes, because that is what's going to help you anchor in to this new way of being.
You just took my breath away. And I think I just have been in such awe and admiration of your wisdom, sister, genuinely, as I've watched you move. And I think what you just said really encapsulates so much of what I've witnessed about you, that there's this way that, you know, when we talk about attachment and, you know, how we are relating to one another, what I think is often missed for me is that there is this other scared, destabilized humaning doing the best that they can a lot of times, right? And that we feel like if I can bring this person to where I believe that they need to be, then I will be safe. Then I will be okay. Then I'll be able to exhale. And I have found normally that's just not the way that it works, because I don't believe our source wants us to sort of outsource our power in that way. And I think there's something so loving about the way that you described that unfolding, not only for yourself, but also for your partner, because it's like, as I sort of come back into myself and into what is within my control, all of a sudden there's permission giving. And I love that you really were honest in saying it's not a clean, easy process. It's going to be messy. Yeah, but that is love, to allow that person to be in their process and in their timeline, not sacrificing myself, but also allowing for that person's human experience and unfolding, you know?
Yeah. And that is really what love is can I accept you in the fullness of who you are? And it's not about making someone be who we want them to be, but to allow them to be more themselves. And sometimes that does at the, you know, bring a relationship to completion. I mean, that's what happened to us. There was so much love. It wasn't like, you know, there was built up resentment and somebody fell out of love, or there was cheating, or there was, you know, misaligned something. It was just a misalignment that happened that became clear was he needed to go on one path. And if I followed him there, I would be abandoning my integrity and vice versa. And that's when we knew. And that's why we were able to go our separate ways with love instead of bitterness and hate and resentment and all of this, you know, chaos. So just for that. So I know a lot of people who are afraid, especially women, they'll say to me, I'm scared to start doing this kind of work in myself or reclaim my voice or my sexuality or my spirituality, because what'll happen to my relationship? I say, well, can you trust something much bigger than both of you? That if that is the relationship that aligns with your highest path forward, that it will transform as well. And if it doesn't, then it will come to an end. And can you trust that you'll be okay? And that life will keep blooming?
Oh my
gosh.
It's a
tall ask.
Can you say more about that process for you? Because another place, I got to tell you, that I was in such deep admiration was watching the integrity with which you met the moment of uncoupling from your children's father. And that, you know, I would see sometimes as I was just like, yes, and like commenting like, yes, sister, on like posts where you would be talking about your process. And I would see, you know, just how much you were really offering a modeling for, I am not a victim in this process, because I think so often, first of all, we really live in a societal template that teaches us that you don't leave a marriage unless someone is like horribly abusive, or it's just like not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's that we just cannot do this for reasons that are like, it's never because we have both made the conscious decision that this isn't aligned anymore. And I think I went through something similar, and it just was like such a healing balm to witness you speaking to your experience. And I guess I'm curious about what that was like for you, in the world around you and in your community and in your familial systems, if that was hard, because I think it becomes sort of like a pioneering way to hold what it is to consciously uncouple. It's not something we have a lot of like models of, this is what this looks like,
Yeah. Yeah. Those first 5 weeks of, once we knew that the divorce was happening, and we were still living in the same house. And so the kids also knowing what's happening. And the weird thing, Dené, is that I don't know. I don't have another reference point of who to compare my journey to, even my kids' journeys. Like the way that we moved to South America. Who does that? Who does that? I'm having my new partner's child, and he's their dad now. Like it's like, this is unheard of. So I know that we have very specific soul contracts playing out right now. In fact, when I went to the courthouse during that time of getting the papers settled, a government worker came out and told me, she said, "Oh, your ex-partner, he's just living his soul path." What government worker says that? So nothing about this has been normal. And I'm just, if we can just share like the essence of it, the love of it, I hope that can transmit. But Ryan and I, we did that uncoupling process while we were still living in the same house with as much intention and reverence as possible. So we would go to the places that were our places, and we would say goodbye together. We would have one last ritual, one last, cigar, or one last walk, and just bring that to completion. And what I noticed during that time too is that it felt like, like a ripping away. When you've been intertwined with someone, and I'm not talking about unhealthy codependence, all that stuff. Like we worked through all of these massive things in the final 5 years of our marriage. But I mean, there's just like this, even spiritually, karmically, all those ties, it's just like being ripped. It's like just, here's another rip of a thread, another, not cut, ripped. It's a different feeling. And I noticed that the further we got along in that process throughout those 5 weeks, there was a sense of feeling like myself as just me that I started to really embody, and likewise for him. So he went further into the direction that he was already headed into, and I just went further into like, okay, my sovereignty, what am I doing? I'm taking care of these kids, full custody, like I'm doing the full bit. It's just, and so there was a more individuation process happening, we'll call it. And it was interesting to witness that and to experience that, and for the kids to also be going through their transition. And I remember working with this, someone that I was meeting with every week, and she said, one of the best things that you can do for your kids' healing is to just keep feeling, to keep feeling. So every day, at least, well, multiple times a day, I would just fall apart. I would just weep and grieve and do whatever I needed to do to just feel and like keep my heart open, because I was not going to shut that thing down. I was going to keep it open no matter how bad it hurt. And that's how I got through that. And before I knew it, it was like, oh, I do feel lighter. I didn't feel crushed anymore. I felt my radiance coming back. I felt like a new, expanded me. And then Ryan had, his own whole trajectory, that he's still on his own path, But I think the key thing here is really keeping our hearts open, because it's so easy to just be jaded, to be bitter, to armor up, to protect ourselves from ever getting hurt like that again.
Yes.
And it's just, it doesn't even work. All we're doing is just cutting off our own access to love.
That part.
So I was like, I'm not doing that. Whatever it takes.
I'm feeling so emotional as I'm listening to you, Lucy, because I think, I don't know why it's making me cry. I think there's just something so beautiful in the strength, and I'm choosing my words, I guess, carefully, but I think like the strength of your heart, that you are able to witness it as this other soul's path that I don't get to be in charge of, that I have to sort of allow his unfolding. I think it's just so easy. Everything we're taught is that you would be entitled to be in the space of righteous indignation and resentment. And of course, like this process of allowing myself to feel all of the true feelings, but also knowing that I am held by a larger force. And that has been what I have witnessed in what you shared. So much of what you have given us, like a blueprint for what that can look like. And I just think you're doing such a tremendous service to us, certainly, as a human race, but as women, because I think that I have seen, and I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, Lucy, but there's a way that we are sort of using disempowering narratives, to me, as a way of sort of being in a space of dominance, I find, right? Like that I am the victim of circumstances and patriarchal, systems, and that it's somehow like in service of us to continue to be in the space of victimization. And it's, to me, what you were saying, it doesn't work anyway. Like it's sort of that thing of drinking poison, expecting that someone else is going to be harmed.
Exactly.
And so I feel like you're such a breath of fresh air in that I am going to feel all of these feelings so that I can keep my heart open. And I got to tell you, sister, I legitimately was in tears when you posted announcing your relationship with Brendan, because I was just so like, love wins. Like it just felt so like this woman who has kept her heart open and is just like the most deserving of a beautiful love. I felt like it was my love story.
Thank
but
you. I know I saw that
my
comment.
God.
I was like, oh, I love you so much.
I was literally like, I'm so happy for her. But yeah, thank you for the courage and the strength that I know that required, to keep coming back to your heart. It's like people say it's not that easy. I'm like, no, it's not that easy, but it's possible. My girl,
it is possible.
Proof.
That's it. And the thing is, we keep our hearts open, and it's like it feels vulnerable and like, what am I doing? But I didn't do that. And here's the other thing too. I didn't do that so that I would attract another man or so that I could get, but I had no intentions of dating for, I told myself 2 to 3, 4 years. And the spiritual mentors I was working with, they were like, no, we see someone in your field like pretty soon. I was like, no. I was rejecting but I said, you know what, if this is part of having my heart open too, is being open to what the universe wants to bless me with, why would I push that away? Because do I need to suffer more? Do I need to do more to earn it? Like, why would I? And honestly, that's something I started to tap into in my self-pleasure practice so many years ago, because there's this idea that, we have, this is as good as it can get. And this is the normal process of, going through divorce and being a single mom, and who's going to want a single mom with 4 kids. And none of that was in my mind. I was like, whoever he is, he's going to see all of us and be like, amazing. I want all of this, like this. And that's what happened. So, and that person that I was really, really, really fighting for was my little self. I would look at pictures of myself as a child and say, I'm not giving up on you. Like, I am not, and I could see that reflected in my own children and say, I am closing up this loop of what happened to me with my parents' divorce, with my father, who also had these mental health issues and things. And this is not that. In fact, I am closing up that. And this is a different story. This is a new story. And sometimes we just have to make that decision too. It's like, no matter what, I'm not giving up on me. And hey, lo and behold, yeah, along came this man. That was very unexpected. And now here we are in South America having another baby. So you just never know. Life has plot twists.
Life had a plan for the two of you. So beautiful, and just deep bows, sister.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to pivot a little bit because I have you, and I feel like I want to pick your brain on some things that I honestly, Luci, I'm still working out, right? So
Okay.
I work primarily as a couples therapist, and I want to give a little, or I feel like it's shifting, but I have some things that I've been like, okay, these are patterns that I see, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts and your insights, because I feel like when it comes to our sensual lives and sexuality, you are someone that I draw so much wisdom from. And what I would see so often is happening is that we put so much emphasis on like the container, the attachment, like keeping this relationship intact. And that's like all of the sort of clinical psychology models, like that's all of the emphasis, but there's no thought, emphasis, value really placed on the life force, the eros, the sensuality, all of the things that like we need, right? And what I feel like ends up happening so often, and this is like the most common theme that I'm sure you see and work with, but that if we're in heterosexual dynamics, there is a way, especially when babies come into the picture, that the woman is just like in this wounded masculine armor, like sort of template of like, I'm doing all the things, I'm handling all the things, I'm parenting everyone, and is so cut off from her eros and her really like the feminine aspects of herself. And the man is really struggling with like, where did my wife go? And I'm so hungry for that from my wife. Now I have so many like it's just such a complex thing, but I'm wondering if you can talk about the process of like how you support women in that space of reclamation of our sensuality and what you understand in terms of what's happening there. Cause I'm fascinated to know what is that from your
There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much happening there. Because again, remember, we like you and I, when we look at this, we're also looking at this from a more zoomed out perspective of what is my soul here to learn through this?
Exactly
you know,
that.
so that has a whole other dimension of things. But let's, I love to bridge the real tangible human 3D everyday experience with that spiritual discernment, because it's not one or the other. This is how we're merging the two. This is where we live. This is what we're here for. And what I see a lot in that is that it's just like I was before I started tapping into my own nourishment. We so commonly, naturally outsource our radiance, our peace, our well-being, our happiness. We just do, because it's just like the path of least resistance. You know, if I'm just around someone who's always feeding me energetically, literally, sexually, whatever, just always catering to me, and I never have this thing that I'm working out in my soul level. It's just easy. Yeah, I want that. That sounds good. But after a while, I think that would get a little bit boring. And there's a difference between that and suffering. Okay, I'm not talking about suffering. I'm not talking about abuse, nothing like that. But if we were just kind of catered to in life, then we wouldn't have these opportunities to feel that it's the sovereignty of our own vibrance for the sake of our vibrance. Like the nourishment that we're looking for, that eros, that erotic aliveness, is everywhere. And when you start to learn how to tap into that, not just through your sexual pleasure, although that is a powerful, and one of the ways that I do guide women, whether it's through my self-pleasure course or coaching or retreats or what have you, back to the sourcing of their life force energy, but also through, let's say, remembering that we are nature. Not just being in nature, but remembering that we are nature. It's like spending time in nature. Okay, I'm spending time in nature no matter where I'm at, because there is this remembrance of like my womb, my heart, my ancestors' blood in my veins, this like ancient wisdom and the way that my body moves, like all these things. So it's really about remembering. And when you're in partnership, no matter how good it is, no matter how well taken care of you feel, the moment that you stop, doing the things that nourish you and connecting with that source, and you start relying on that partner to give that to you, that's when things get wonky. Now, there are seasons in life, right, where we do need to lean on each other more. One of those seasons is, for example, when we have a newborn baby. We're about to have one here in a few months.
Yes.
And there is a sense of collaboration and teamwork and partnership that is foundational in the relationship that, let's just for some reference here, Ryan and I had to work our asses off to create after over a decade, well into the marriage. So things like that help us to really build whatever it is that we're building together. But if you are not I don't even want to call it self-sourcing. There is this false image. I feel like this is a distortion where we think we have to fill our own cups. But then the question is, well, where do I get that from? Where am I filling my cup from if I'm already feeling empty? Well, where are you sourcing from? And so having that awareness of what nourishes you is one of the first things that I like to bring women to. Because maybe they just stop doing what nourishes them, what gives them life, what reminds them that they are vibrant women, that they're not just someone that is needed. That's not just looked to for all these needs, but that they are a woman, they are a human, they are an individual that has different things that make her come alive. So it's coming back to what makes you come alive. And maybe there are different things in this season than in any other season. That's what you're meant to soften into. And so, yeah, there is a lot there, though. You're right. There are many layers, but I would say your radiance, your vibrance, that is something that does not have to depend on any other person.
You are so wise. I love that so much, because I think you've just given such a beautiful explanation to something that I have felt so strongly is and you and I have talked about this a little bit previously, that becomes challenging around being the source that I'm filling my cup with is always this one other individual who may not have the capacity. Where things are between us, it feels challenging. We get in like these like standoff energetics between us where it's just like really hard to find our way back to one another. And I think that certainly your partner is one of the things that you will source life and support and all of those things from. But if it's the only source of that, I think it becomes a distortion. And I think I love just really tapping into what gives you that sense of aliveness beyond, another person, or even like connecting with the nature that you are. I often will say, like when we talk about regulation, certainly with your partner, but also with nature, like we co-regulate with trees when we are outside and breathing in the air. Like there are all of these different ways that there's just like an intelligence for us to tap back into. And I think we're just really limited in our perception of what is possible. And I just love how much you like intuitively are speaking to that. Because it's so important, and it's not a lot of the narrative that I hear in terms of like when we talk about relational healing,
Yeah, because that co-regulation, literally just listening to birds chirping or being next to the trees, putting your feet in grass. So it's like if you feel kind of off, when was the last time you danced? When was the last time you just sang? When was the last time you put your feet in grass and, I don't know, talk to some leaves? My 10-year-old will just go out and hug trees randomly. I'm like, you go, girl. She knows. She's like, I'm going to go talk to the fairies. I'm like, okay, tell me what
Aw.
they say. And it's so precious. And they're just
Love
tapped into this like land frequency. And that's one of the reasons we're here, because this land was calling to us. But yeah, there's that. And to the point of our partner being a source of nourishment. Yes. Thank you for emphasizing that too, but not the only source, because on the other swing of the pendulum, what I've seen a lot with the couples I've worked with is that, let's say they start doing the work, and then there's this naturally going to be this shift, right? Because if both people are deep in their shadow work and confronting their fears and all the blah, blah, going to therapy, doing the things, there comes a point where it's kind of like, oh, well, that's not a me thing, that's a you thing. And it's like, oh, okay, that is another form of self-protection, of where we don't have to be vulnerable with each other. So those who are under the train of thought of, well, I don't need my partner at all, I'm going to be completely self-sufficient, and they're just like kind of bonus there. No, if I was completely single, I would recalibrate to that reality and not expect anything from any man. Because I'm in a partnership, there are certain agreements in the relationship that we have made, and we communicate. And if there are needs, desires, fears, resistances, we talk about them. And that's vulnerable.
Oof. I love that. And I think naming it as vulnerable is important, because what I find so often happens is we use resentment as a way to sort of defend against vulnerability and not really speaking to the desires that I am longing for you to meet me in. And absolutely, I think, what is the point of partnership if we are doing all of this by myself? And I think it's always, to me, such a important remembrance that it is such an incredible privilege to walk this path with someone beside you. I think we don't ever want to take that for granted, but also we got to bring people in on our process in order to experience that intimacy that we long for. And it's the most vulnerable thing in the world, because it's asking another person, can you see me and still believe that I'm worthy of your love, right? And I mean, none of us are immune to what that conjures up within us.
Yeah, this is true.
Beautiful. Well, okay. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I think you speak so beautifully of this practice of self-pleasure, which I am just such a advocate for us really getting in right relationship with our ability to talk about how we, especially, like, I don't want to say especially as women, but I think a lot of times with clients, I feel like there's just a struggle around us having the actual conversation as women. And that, I mean, it sounds like, oh no, we've moved beyond that, but we haven't. That it's just like the right man will know, or person will know how to turn me on.
They'll just know.
They will just know
do
how
all
to
the
do
things.
Right?
Because of our 20 past lives.
Right? Exactly. That flame. And I don't know, like, first of all, I think that that's a little bit of a disempowering narrative, but also, and this is, you spoke a little bit about discernment a few moments ago. This is where
I probably did, though.
I'm a little jet lagged. You can tell. You probably did in a reel somewhere, but right. But I think there's something in, I've had spiritual teachers that have really supported me in recalibrating my relationship with my sex. And that, like, I think so many of us are raised with sex as sort of a performative act. And it's really not about my authentic pleasure. It's about how I am validated or experienced by someone else. And I feel like you are just such a force in that reclamation in the world. Thank you for that. But also, I think when we are in that type of intimate relationship with ourselves, I do feel like, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, that it makes discernment feel a lot more accessible when we are choosing partnership and what is aligned versus what isn't. And I'd love for you to say a little bit about what that brings up for you, because I'm so inspired by how you speak about this often.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for that reflection too, because it has been, again, working through my own distortions in the spiritual wilderness as it relates to sexuality. Because again, there was no blueprint for this stuff. I was like, what am I doing? I was in a meditation one morning years ago, and I got this message that I needed to start self-pleasuring every day. And I was like, are you sure? Me? And this was on the heels of a conversation that I had with my ex-husband about how, I could probably just have a nun life. I could, be a nun. I was like, sex, I can take it or leave it. Like, I don't really care about having orgasms. I'm like, I don't know. It's just whatever. And oh my God, let me tell you. Yeah. Can you just imagine that version of me?
I'm like my jaw up, and I love it because it's like all of us. This is possible. That was
yes.
Oh my God!
And I tell people too. I'm like, if you've had this was, after having 4 babies, that's when I started my whole sexual healing journey. So I had scar tissue, I had numbness in my vagina, I had pain, it took so much effort to have one orgasm, so much time, so much mental gymnastics. And then it would just be like a sneeze and it would be over and I would be overstimulated. So it has been a long journey, y'all. I've come a long ways. Okay, that was it. Sorry, that was an unexpected one. Snuck in there. And so much of this, it was just seeded in me in a meditation. And I said, okay, because I knew better than to question that. And up until that point, a lot of my, I guess what we would call decision making, kind of lived in my head. I'm not talking like third eye crown, like there's like this knowingness. There was that, but it kind of felt cloudy, felt like there was something heavy on it. And it wasn't until I descended into those deeper energy centers and started to work with my actual vaginal tissue. I mean, we're talking, when we talk about womb healing and tapping into your womb wisdom and your cycles and your ancestry there and all these things, there's an energetic component. And then there's actually working with the deep tissues. And I started to do so every day for that first full year. I was absolutely devoted to the practice. I had so much resistance. Actually, I missed 2 days. Because it was the first day of my bleed on 2 months that I was like, I can't. Today I just, I really did approach it as a spiritual practice, as a self-exploring process from the beginning. And it was not very pleasurable for a while. It wasn't forceful, but it wasn't pleasurable. And what I mean by that is that every time I would go into my practice, I would notice more shame. I would notice more beliefs, more like, what are you doing here? You're wasting time. You could be being productive. You could be working on that. What if the kids need you? You're taking too long. And I would just be present with that. And that was the real gift of the pleasure practice, especially in those first 30-ish days, that first month. It was emotionally so much that came up. There was so much shame, so much grief that was accessible through going into these spaces in my body. So, or this space, I guess. But that going through the process of what is called de-armoring and gently pressing into the spots with tension and just softening into that was such a needed analogy or metaphor for life, of just kind of gently pressing into the resistance, breathing, calling in more light, calling in that source energy, and just surrendering, not needing it to feel pleasurable. And then guess what happened? All these sensations started coming online in my body. So yeah, a lot of times women will come to me because they have struggled to have an orgasm, or they've never had one with their partner, or it just takes them a really long time, or they just feel really ashamed after they do finish, all these things. And this is a practice of being deeply present with what is and softening into it, and then seeing what, unfolds from that.
I just was so struck by the depth of the ancestral healing work that you're describing in that practice. And the narratives that were coming up of shame and taking up space for myself, with myself, and how much those themes are such a metaphor for how we move through the world so often as women. And it's amazing the extent to which, it's like, I mean, again, we would say, like, of course this is a spiritual path and that, like, the two things are connected, but that our sex is so connected to all of the spaces that we are contracted and holding shame and sort of walled off from ourselves, right?
Yes.
It kind of takes my breath away as I listen to you describe it.
Yeah, I would say that was the practice that most powerfully changed my life. Because it was that. It was, I can take up space. I can take up time. I can find the threshold of my pleasure and decide, okay, that's enough. That's what I'm used to. So I'm done. Pack up my things. Let's go. Or I can just be here and simmer, bask in the pleasure, bask in the afterglow, see what more is there, and just be open to more. Not forcing it. This is another thing too, because a lot of times women will say, well, I just want to learn how to squirt. Okay, great. Great. Guess what that is? That is a radical experience of surrender. And also, there is pelvic floor stuff involved. Do you have a chronically tight pelvic floor? Is it strong, or is it, weak and chronically tight? Is it supple? There's a actual physical and physiological aspect, but there's also all of this emotional and energetic stuff going on. And so can you really surrender to the experience of your pleasure to that extent? Because it took me a year. There was a year that I was trying. I was so determined. I'm going to learn how to do this thing because it's cool. It's a cool feat. I hear that it feels great and I just want to have it. And for a whole year, I tried. Not kidding. Whole year. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. And I was like, maybe, no, that's not it. No. And it was frustrating. And then I was just like, you know what? Universe knows I want to have this experience. I'm going to just surrender the timing, the way it happens, the outcome. And then when it started happening, I was like, oh, okay, my body can do this. So these are these things too. And I love when I talk to women and they tell me their stories of, oh my God, you won't believe what happened in my self-pleasure practice. And I think I'm dehydrated now, or, or I connected with Persephone and she told me about such and such that I've been looking for clarity about. I'm like, see, this is your portal.
It's so beautiful.
I've heard it all.
And it's, to me, it truly feels revolutionary. And I just have had this sense that the next wave of where we are headed in terms of our collective healing has to do with our relationship with sex. And I think you are going to be such like a crucial way shower for our collective, just like the way that you are showing up it's revolutionary. And it's such an honor to know you, sister, to learn from you, and just thank you for answering your soul's calling for this lifetime, because it is so clear that you are in alignment with how you came to be of service.
Thank you. And the unfolding continues. I almost said evolution, but I'm kind of steering away from that because it's this connotation that this is better than that. Everything is perfect where it is.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I know that I will be coming into one of your courses soon. I've been wanting to for a while, and I'm just like, but see, this is inspiring me. I'm like, Dené, your stuff is priority. You matter. Remember what Luci said. But I think that is going to be true for so many of us. And will you tell those who are listening how they, like, if all of this has evoked something, which I know it has, and they want to do some of this work with you, how can they do that, Luci?
Well, all of the current offerings will be at lucilampe.com, which is also linked in my Instagram at Luci Lampe. And I would say too that if someone is feeling the pull towards a deep dive, but they're not necessarily wanting to do a whole mentorship container. I'm also offering virtual deep dive days, VIP days. So that's literally crafted to whatever they feel pulled towards. And it's just a whole day spent together virtually. And otherwise, I have a lot of different courses available on my site as well. But out of all that, I would recommend either starting with the Dark Feminine Codes course, or the Erotic Liberation bundle, which includes that self-pleasure course that I mentioned.
You're just incredible, sister. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. And, I'm so inspired by you. I can't wait for your next book, because I'm sitting listening to you. I'm like,
yeah,
she's
that's
so
coming
poetic.
in June.
Even in this, how she speaks, I'm like, it just is like blowing my mind. So yes, and look for Luci's book coming in June, because I know that there's going to be such a wealth of wisdom that you offer in there as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who's tuning in and received all of this.
You're such a gift, sister. All